Welcome to the Mental Health Hour.
Mm,
Welcome to episode 35 of the series. And this is going to be
35.
on the traumatic brain. Um, this is a great topic, a little bit complex. So we will break it down in layman's terms. Gemma and I aren't doctors,
Mm,
but we can try and explain this, to the best of our abilities as I understand it, from what I have gone through in the group therapies and classes and whatnot on set things. But in all honesty, this is an integral part or an integral piece to the puzzle that I had been missing for a while. Um, so yes, so welcome in. Welcome to all of the live viewers. Joseph Burke Arts is first on deck. Thank you for the host. Appreciate that. Um, Welcome to all of our replay viewers as well, whether it be here on Twitch or over on YouTube later. Um,
mhm.
Dimmy, welcome in. Good to see you. Um, and hello to Gemma.
Oh, hello.
How are
30.
we?
I can't believe episode 35.
Yes, episode 35. Just plugging
Mhm.
along with all the mental health.
For
Uh,
real. Yeah.
Good evening, Michael Joseph Murray. You guys are doing a great thing. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. It means a lot. Joseph, for those of you who remember, was on episode 25 of
Yeah.
the show, 10 episodes ago already. Jimmy, of course, we said hello, and we've got Michael Joseph Murray here, and everybody's trickling in. I love it.
Mhm.
All right. So, as I was saying, this is a bit of a complex subject. Um, it's a lot of brain stuff, which is, hard to understand if you're not a neurologist. Um,
Mm.
but we, as I said, will try and break this down the best we can. And thank you guys for the bits. Thank you there, Demi, for the bits and all the emotes. It's good to see everybody coming in, having fun, using emotes, using the getting the most out of the Twitch experience here. All
Yeah.
right. So as we start this evening, we do every week. I kick it to Gemma for a little. Do you have anything before we start on the traumatic brain? Have you heard of it? Have you dealt with it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I know we discussed it because I'd not heard of it in the term that you were using, but definitely something that I face daily where my mind is always focusing on the bad stuff.
Yeah,
And it's hard to, especially when there's so much going on, trying to focus on some of the good stuff can be hard at times. Your brain naturally just wants to focus on that bad stuff.
so yes, the traumatic brain, or a brain that's in crisis because of a traumatic experience,
Hmm.
um, can definitely cause a multitude of different symptoms and issues for your health. And we're going to go over all of those, or at least touch on a few without trying to make this too complex. We're going to try and keep this as simple as possible. Thanks again for the bits, guys, and thanks for showing up and supporting. We really enjoy spending each Wednesday night with you guys. So thanks again for coming in.
Hmm.
It means a lot to both of us.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what I mean when I say the traumatic brain, because like you were saying, it's not really uh, it's not the normal terminology, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, this is a phrase I came across down at the rehab center when I was learning about all of this great stuff that was going on inside of me. So basically, uh, the traumatic brain is kind of your catalyst into PTSD. Now, PTSD, we did a whole episode on, and we're going to do more about PTSD because it's such a major part of mental
Mhm.
health. Um, and, you know, as far as PTSD goes, I've been diagnosed with it. I know Gemma and I have talked. She's mentioned that she's also had some PTSD
Mm.
dealings. Um, so you all know the job I do, um, and the stuff that we're exposed to, the sights, the smells, the
Mm.
things people aren't meant to see on a regular basis. Um,
Yeah.
and these things kind of, while they don't bother me on the scene of a call, or maybe even after we get back, nah, everybody's good. We don't need to fret over this. What I had noticed is I was digging up a lot of memories from uh, 10, 12 years ago for calls I ran.
Mm.
And that right there is the essence of the traumatic brain. So, a real quick rundown. Uh, uh, your brain has two hemispheres, right in the left hemisphere. Okay. And in the middle is the corpus callosum, just little tiny fibers that connect the two, communicate. So when basically this is how it was explained to me, and I think it was pretty poignant and easy to understand to just get us started, and then we'll go into some slides and stuff like we do. But let's say you are experiencing a fond memory. You're in the time that's going to be a good memory. Um, you're with your buddy and you're going fishing. You guys love fishing together, um, and so you're going out for the day. You're going fishing. You come back after the day's over. You fondly remember this day um, as it was something you both enjoyed. So right now, during a good memory, your right and left hemisphere are communicating uh, in sync. Like they're getting along. They're working as they should together. Um, and your brain is able to take that memory, a fond memory, a good memory, timestamp it, date and time, whatever, and then essentially file it away into your big file cabinet up here for later retrieval. You can always go back and, hey, remember that time we went fishing? Yeah, that was a blast, or golfing or whatever. Just something that's a great memory. Christmas with the family, all of these things um, that we remember fondly. They get communicated back and forth as it should be. They get time stamped and they get filed away. Now, when, and take a minute to welcome in everybody coming in, all the live viewers. Thanks for being here again. Um, Demi, thanks for the sub, the resub. That's awesome. Appreciate it. Hattie, thanks for the bits. And as always, thank you for all the subs, bits, uh, follows, shares,
Mhm.
everything that comes with
All
Twitch,
that good stuff.
all the good stuff. Um, it's just it's amazing to see. I think Joseph was talking about it in his stream last night um, during his archery stream. It's just amazing the support and love on this platform. It's great. So back to it. Okay, we know what a good memory does. Um, Now let's take a traumatic experience. You're seeing something that not everybody should see necessarily. Like it's just out of the blue, out of the ordinary, bad, uh, whatever you want to consider. It's not creating that fond memory as we were talking about.
Mm.
We all know what traumatic experiences are. We've all had them. It's a part of life. It stresses you out, um, and your brain, the right and the left hemispheres are not in tune. They're not in sync. They're not communicating well. Everything's just kind of a mess. Um, and so there's little things that aren't firing that should be, and it's just like a rain cloud, just a jumbled up storm cloud going, and this is not able to be time stamped and filed away. It is just going to remain in the now. When you experience trauma, until you process that trauma and are able to heal or grieve, it's always going to be in the now. It won't be time stamped. It won't be filed away. That's why when you're thinking about a traumatic experience you may have had 10, 12, 15, 20 years ago, you can still remember it as if it were yesterday. Because as far as your brain is concerned, it was yesterday. It's still in the now. You can remember the wallpaper on the wall. You can remember the smell. You can remember everything so vividly. Um, any little minor details. All of that is just remaining in your brain in the now and clouding it up. And it definitely takes its toll on the body.
Do you think you switch off to it and become numb to it after a while?
So that's a great question. I think we do
Mhm.
essentially become numb. I think we fall into those depressions over it. Um, Substance abuse, we can numb it out with that. Uh,
Mm.
that was my go-to, alcohol. Become disassociated, isolation, detachment, distractions. There's all different types of things we can do to try and numb it, and keep it normal.
Mhm.
Um, when actually we're just hurting ourselves in the process. What needs to be done is this trauma needs to be processed properly. It needs to be made sense of, essentially,
Mhm.
and talked out. Um, this is something that a lot of people, myself included, struggle with, is that talking, being vulnerable, opening yourself up to another human, and saying, hey, that really bothered me a lot. that
Mhm.
that was messed up. um, you know so I
Mhm.
know, with does that Gemma, does that explanation of what I mean by the traumatic brain make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
Oh,
I think most people will be able to relate to it. Not
yes.
necessarily with the job thing, because you are seeing things. I know we've spoken stuff, and like, yeah, you're definitely seeing things that most people won't ever see. Thankfully, like, I don't think I could handle that.
Yes, and it stretches far, far beyond the fire service. I mean, cops are affected with the same stuff, military,
Mhm.
and even normal everyday events that would happen to you or me in civilian life. You don't have to be a first responder to be affected by this, is what I'm trying to get at. It happens to everybody. Everybody goes through traumatic events.
Mhm.
We all experience death. We all experience, um, just poor life events. The stuff
Yeah.
that you know you're not gonna you can't control. These things are part of life, and they're gonna happen. And like I said, we got to learn how to process it and heal. Um, make sense of it, be able to reprocess it into something good. Okay. And I'll explain a little bit more about that later. But that way we're able to essentially timestamp it and file it away. So if you guys have any questions at any time, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Gemma usually does a really great job on keeping an eye on while I'm going on some tangent about something. Sadie, it is good to see you. Good to see you over here on Twitch.
Good to see people making it over onto Twitch from the other place.
Yes.
You know.
And
remaining over here.
And Michael brings up another great point here about self-medicating. That's exactly what I was doing with alcohol. And a lot of people do with substance abuse. It's just self-medicating. You know, not properly seeking the help you need, talking to doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors. EAP is available. There's group therapies about literally everything. Group, sessions. There's a wealth of things out there at our fingertips, even right here on Zoom now in these COVID times. It's even easier to find meetings across the nation or your nation or wherever you are in this world. Zoom is worldwide. So
Hattie's just asked a question you might want to read.
Does the brain have a way of protecting itself when you can remember most of what happened during a traumatic accident? The reason I asked that is when I was a kid, I tried to climb on the tractor as Dad was mowing the lawn. I fell off. He was backing up, and I was under it. I don't remember anything but a light in the operating room. Certainly. And we're going to get into that as well. Fight, flight, or freeze. During the traumatic experience, your body will do one of three things. And, it always used to be fight or flight mode. Freeze has been added into it now as well, because we can tense up, freeze up. Think about if you're getting ready to slam on the brakes because a car stopped at a red light and you weren't expecting it. You kind of seize up. The fight mode would be to try and find a way out, try and swerve, get out of the way. Freeze, it's just, fall, run right into them. And then,
that's what happened to me with the rape. I literally froze. And I know, like, depending on who you speak to and stuff, people might say, did you not try and fight him off? I couldn't. My body literally effectively shut down to the point where I had no control over it. And there's a huge part of my life that to this day I can't remember. And I think it's my brain's way of self-preservation for a reason. And like Molly said, disassociation. I have done that a few times. The best way for me to describe that, I went for a walk. It's quite a few weeks ago now. I had my music on and a certain song came on while I was listening to it. And something with the music and something that happened around me triggered something in my head to go back to something from years ago. And the next thing I know, I've walked a good 10, 15 minutes down the road. Absolutely no recollection of anything. I completely disassociated from everything around me. I don't do that often now, but like I say, I'm still dealing with certain stuff myself. It does take a long time, and especially when you can't remember it. Personally, they're on about maybe trying some hypnotherapy with me to see if I can remember it. But then I'm like, do I want to remember it? Is there a reason that my brain has blocked this huge chunk of my life out? So, yeah, that just to pick up on that. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. That's great. The disassociation, it comes along with this territory. Like um, the traumatic brain, like I said earlier, is the catalyst here for things like PTSD, dissociation, substance abuse, depression, anxiety. Um, like you need another thing in your life to cause depression and anxiety. However, it is a major factor. Um, and yes, Hattie, absolutely. Your brain does try and protect you and itself when there is just too much happening at that given moment. It kind of freezes up, shuts down, overloads, I guess. I would like to imagine that it is, like you said, trying to protect us. So that's a great point, and thank you for the question. That was awesome. Any other questions, guys? Please feel free to throw them in there. But now let's kick to a slide here. We're going to go over a little bit of, there's going to be some big words, and I don't understand all of them. Jim in Chicagoland is here. Welcome.
Right as you said catalyst.
Speaking of that,
Impairment.
yes, there he is. Jim in Chicagoland. Welcome to the broadcast. So let's talk a little bit here about how trauma affects the brain. We got the prefrontal cortex, the hippocampus, and the amygdala are your three major regions of the brain here that are affected by trauma. So go ahead there, Gemma.
Yeah. So the prefrontal cortex, the darker blue area that you see, it's for rational thinking. It regulates emotions such as fear responses from the amygdala, which is with PTSD. This has a reduced volume. And then going up to the other side, the hippocampus, responsible for the memory and differentiating between the past and the present. It works to remember and make sense of trauma. With consistent exposure to trauma, it shrinks. And then the amygdala at the bottom. It's wired for survival. When it's active, it's hard to think rationally. The more hyperactive the amygdala is, the more signs of PTSD that are present.
Right. So PTSD, as we discussed in an episode a while back, and welcome in Blaine as well. Blaine coming in with his emotes as well and some bits. Thank you guys again for all the bits and the support. We love it. But PTSD, to get a diagnosis of PTSD, you have to hit 4 different categories with 2 or 3 different symptoms in each category. So it's hard to get a diagnosis, but with an extensive history of traumatic experiences, like say somebody that's seen combat overseas or what have you, it can rack up pretty easily. So when that amygdala gets over or hyperactive, the prefrontal cortex comes into play alongside of it. And so these 3 regions of your brain are what, and I can't even remember how many exactly regions of the brain there are. We can probably look that up. However, these 3 here are what are firing and getting affected the most. So what happens in the brain during a potentially traumatic event?
All right, let's move on to this one. Yep. So it says the brain stem is critical in fast defensive responses. It's directly connected with the retina. So the retina sends visual information to the brain stem immediately before higher levels of the brain are even aware of the threat. So like they're showing you the lion. It sees it and sends obviously there's a lion in front of you to the brain, and then
Mm-hmm.
it will react. And that's where the fight, flight, or freeze would come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, if the predator moves closer, you really should have helped me with
The
something.
periaqueductal gray. That's another region of the brain.
Yeah. So the
Periaqueductal gray.
I can't.
Periaqueductal gray. Now you got me stumbling.
Oh, there we go. Activates the sympathetic nervous system. Heart rate goes up. Blood flow to the muscles increases. The blood pressure increases, and the pupils dilate.
All of those things when you're
Mm-hmm.
when you're on your guard, basically, and the heart rate goes up, the blood pressure goes up, the sweat comes, the tension, the white knuckle feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on.
Where are we with this one? I've got them out of order somehow. There's lots of words in here, tongue twisters tonight. Right, so it says, but it's not always safe or possible to fight or escape. That's when a person may enter the freeze response or faint to death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the peri... Oh, goodness.
Periaqueductal gray.
Periaqueductal grey. I'll try that.
Activates the parasympathetic nervous system as well.
You'd have been much better reading these.
Muscles get tight, freeze, both gaze and breath may freeze. So
Yeah.
what this is saying here is this is not a as it says right there, this is not a cognitive choice. You're not making this is as involuntary as breathing or blinking your eyes. That fight or flight instinct is instinctual, and it kicks in these times of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could also freeze. The person may shut down completely. That's when your heart rate drops, everything starts coming down. It's also known as what the heck is it? Adrenaline dump, I believe.
Mm. That's what I said. Like, that happened to me when I was attacked and raped. I
Mm-hmm.
just completely shut down. Like, my body and everything completely. It's as though I was watching me from above or something. Like, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
it was I was watching myself. I had absolutely no control over my own body at all. No matter what I would have wanted to do, I just couldn't.
What you're experiencing there, and I'll try and explain this as I understand it. Again,
Mm-hmm.
Gemma and I are not doctors.
Mm-hmm.
My little bit of medical knowledge here. When you're in a tense situation and the blood flow is up, the heart rate's up, you're diaphoretic, which is sweaty, blood pressure's up, and then all of a sudden you adrenaline dump and everything tanks. That's going to create what's called a syncopal episode, or it could create a syncopal episode, which is basically just passing out, fainting.
Yeah, that happened.
So yeah, and you might not go completely out. You might just kind of go into a daze, etc. So Patty, this might continue on with what you were talking about there. It just you hit that shutdown.
Yeah.
So I did want to, before we get further into fight, flight, or freeze, wanted to throw this picture up here. So this here is brain scans. This the healthy brain on the left and PTSD on the right. As you can see, the good memory, bad memory thing I was talking about at the beginning of the stream when we were just breaking it down. The brain here on the left hand side, the healthy brain is a happy brain. Both hemispheres are communicating together. There's no signs of trouble, trauma, rain clouds, storm clouds. And then as you see on the right, all that red lit up. They're not communicating. They're not in sync. They're not working together. So basically it's that as I was trying to explain it, that storm cloud going on in times of trauma. Um, so, wow, the red makes it look like your thoughts are literally scattered. Yes.
You
And
have,
these are,
by the way, sorry, getting that in there.
what's
Somebody,
that?
you've had a stretch redeemed.
Oh, a stretch. I'm sorry. Thank you.
There you go. You told me to tell you if I saw it.
Stretching is great for your mental health.
Mhm.
Again, yoga, meditation, stretching, uh, etc. Who hit me with the stretch? Sadie,
Sadie.
there she is. And Jim, what do we have? Does therapy help with PTSD, or is there a way to reduce or remedy it? Well, Jim, I am glad you asked. There is, and we will get into that as well. Just let me go over a little bit more on fight, flight, or freeze. Gemma, if you would, and then we'll answer that question, Jim. Thank you for the question.
Mhm. Right, which one are we on? This one. Right, yeah. So there's the fight, flight, and freeze. So for fight, so this is for feelings of irritability. So more ready to engage in arguments with family members or members of the public. Hoarding items such as cleaning products or toilet paper. Oh, we all know about that with the
Mm,
COVID, hoarding
yeah,
toilet paper.
absolutely.
Excessive competitiveness for items when shopping and or criticizing store staff for limited items of stock. I literally saw that the other day. They were reducing items and there was literally a physical fight
Hmm.
for like food. It's like, is this happening? What? Um, and then imagining and planning for scenarios where the person might have to fight to survive. And then the flight, so hiding out, reluctance or refusal to engage in activities medical professionals have deemed safe for the general public, like going for walks or grocery shopping. Reluctance or refusal to return to activities once restrictions have been lifted. And then passive communication styles or people pleasing in order to avoid conflict or confrontation.
Hmm.
And then there's the freeze, which is numbing behaviors such as substance abuse, increased time spent on social media, excessive time spent watching TV when you're not enjoying the show or movie anymore, or not paying attention to the plot line and just watching to fill time. So, like, I've done that myself, watched something and then couldn't tell you what it was about at all. And then gambling and or disordered eating. I can read that. I'm not doing very well with these words tonight.
That is
I'm really
okay.
not.
It's okay. I told you this is going to be a tough one tonight. There's
That's just for speaking.
a lot going on with with the traumatic brain, and of course, anytime you're dealing with the brain, there's gonna be all kinds of neurological words, and neurological itself is one of those words. So,
Mm-hmm.
anywho, uh, I hope this breaks down fight, flight, or freeze a little bit easier or better, so you can see, maybe take a look at when if you can remember a traumatic experience that recently happened, or maybe you're digging one up from years past. Did you fight? Did you flight? Did you freeze? I was certainly a substance abuser. I was a self-medicator. Um, I just basically got steamrolled. I'd freeze. I'd sit there and let the steamroller run right over me, um, and then drink my sorrows away. Um, but feel free to drop it in the chat. Which one you identify with more, you see more of yourself in. Uh,
Mm.
but this, again, fight, flight, or freeze. This is instinctual. This is involuntary. This kicks in when that traumatic experience is happening, and
Mhm.
It's not something you cognitively choose to do. It's
Yeah.
not like, okay, it's a zombie apocalypse now. Am I going to run? Am I going to fight these guys, or
Involuntary
am I going to just
response.
stand here
Yeah.
and get eaten? You might think that, or go over some options, but that the thought that, or I mean, the fact that you're even thinking that process out means this is already kicked in.
Mhm. It's an involuntary response, right?
Yes, um, as normal as breathing and blinking your eyes.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit in depth, and this hour is moving quickly. A lot to go over here. We might have to do another episode on this, but it seems like everybody's enjoying it. I'm glad. I'm glad this isn't.
Mhm.
I was afraid this was going to be too complex. Uh, like I said, I'm trying to break it down as best I can, how I was kind of, taught. Steve, welcome in. Good to see you. Um, and Molly says, I fought. Uh,
Mhm.
so, Jim, going back to your question, what can be done with PTSD or these traumatic events? How do we take this um, brain on the right and kind of make it healthy again? How do we live with um, these traumatic events? How do
Mhm.
we heal? How do we cope? It's all through something called trauma processing. And I will definitely be uh, dropping a daily article on trauma processing and the importance of it. This is usually done with a trained clinician or counselor of you, you basically sit down and you're talking this out, but you're going one on one and in depth on a specific experience. We're not reviewing um, all of your life. We're talking about one dramatic event. Okay, and that's very important because you have to reprocess these. You have to process and then reprocess these individually. It's just too
Mhm.
much to try. You need to get to the root of these. Why does this bother me so much? Kind of moments,
Mhm.
which I was able to do firsthand down at rehab. I went through this very process, and I worked through my divorce. My divorce really screwed me up, and it had me at the lowest I've ever been. I felt like such a failure. I'm one of four. I have three siblings. Everybody has um, happy marriages, kids, and here I am, divorced, and just total black sheep. Couldn't feel any lower about myself. I'm just outcast, isolation, detachment, substance abuse to the max. Um, I felt like a failure, and that, and in talking now, this didn't happen in 5 minutes. Of course, this takes an hour and a half, 3 hours at a clip to run through this whole process. But that was the root of this traumatic experience, was that I feel as if I'm a failure. And it took like I said, it took a while to get to that, but when we made it there, now we can reprocess this. Now we can work through what's called Socratic questioning. And I will also add this into the Discord on a daily article. Socratic questioning is a line of questioning, um, and it's a process in which you take that route, I'm a failure, and you go through about 4 or 5 different categories with your trained clinician who is trauma certified. Like, we want somebody that deals with trauma, not just any counselor,
Mhm.
this is a specialty field, and um, I think it's really neat what they do. We called them mind wizards down there. They were able to climb so far into my head and pull this stuff out, and I was just sitting there talking, not realizing what I was divulging, um, by the questions that they were asking and by how they were able to like basically just open up my head, get down in there, stir it around a little bit and see what they can pull out. And it's just incredible. And then after it's all out there and they're writing all this stuff down on the whiteboard, and we're making connections from your past. We're making, oh, this makes a lot of sense over here. This probably caused this. And you're just like sitting there in awe and taking this all in as to why I feel like a failure. Why?
Mhm.
And then at the very end, once you've really understood all of this, it's time to reprocess that into something good. Um, we need to take that bad thought, put it on trial, weigh out the pros and the cons, or the truths and the falses of this statement. I'm a failure. Write down everything that makes you not a failure. Write down everything or reason why you think you are a failure. Go over each of those thoughts. I mean, it is a process and it takes time, but it pays off dividends, because by the end of it, coming out the other end saying, I'm not a failure. My marriage wasn't a failure. I had an unsuccessful marriage.
Mhm.
Just by changing that and working through that and processing it, I was able to change it into I just had an unsuccessful marriage. And I came out of there feeling 150,000 pounds lighter. The weight of the world lifted from me. And it was an incredible feeling. And and it's all thanks to the great work of these trauma therapists.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, Gemma, have you experienced anything like this? Maybe not Socratic questioning, or maybe not, a sit down with a trauma clinician in specific, but
Mhm.
have you ever felt yourself reprocess a bad into a good? Or maybe an unsuccessful marriage isn't really a good thing, but it's
Yeah.
so much better than calling yourself a failure, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And for the longest time, I did feel like a failure because, yeah, I wasn't married. We were engaged for a while. Um, but like, even with the abuse and stuff and everything else, I didn't want to be categorized as a single mother. Like they go on about all the statistics of like single mothers not working, and I was like thinking, comparing myself to other family members and things, thinking like I'm single, I've got a child, I don't work anymore, like what have I achieved with my life? And I was just feeling like a complete failure as a mother, in life, in relationships, and just everything. And yeah, like in a way now I have, after sitting down with counselors and things, I do feel a lot better about that because yeah, I might be single. I've been single for 7 years, but I'm alive. The
Mhm.
thing, had I not have got out of that, God knows where me and my son would have been now. Probably not here, that's for sure,
Yeah.
with what was going on with everything. And then one of the biggest things that I was able to achieve for the longest time, because of being raped and where I was raped, I wouldn't go anywhere near the location, and unfortunately, it was very much near the housing office that I am supposed to be based at to go and take stuff in,
Mhm.
get forms and stuff, and I wouldn't go. I would not go. And with the help from my counselor, I actually went and stood at the location that I was raped. It wasn't pleasant at all. However, now I'm able to go up there, go and do what I need to do so that
It's part of the healing process.
mm, I didn't have to go up there. It's something I wanted to do because for the longest time I felt like I'd lost something other than like just yeah, I lost a necklace, but other than just that, I felt like I'd lost a part of me there that time. And it was something that I had to do to help me heal, to show that it wasn't a big scary location, that it wasn't this big thing that I had to have holding over me for the longest time. And yeah, he may have walked away without getting justice served in the way of courts and stuff because the police messed up, basically. And there were many, many other victims involved, and long story anyway. But for me to completely turn that round to something now where, yeah, don't get me wrong, like, it still annoys me that he's walking around and he hasn't had justice in that way, but he's not got this power over me anymore, and it took me a long time to get over that. But now I feel like not only is he's got no hold over me, no power over me anymore, neither is that location, but I'm able to talk about it and share my experience and to try and help others. And this is why it's something I've wanted to do, like with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, we're not doctors, we're not medically trained, but we are two people that have been through it. And if I can help just one other person, then that's something that I would consider an achievement.
And that right there is the basis of step 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sharing
Mhm,
your experience, strength, and hope. That's the mission statement of this show, basically.
mhm,
We want to share our experiences, and we want to make it, as I've said 100 times before. We
mhm.
want to we want to normalize this talk because everybody goes through
Yeah.
this.
Mhm.
Everybody goes through traumatic experiences. Everybody might not have PTSD or might not um, go through the same level of traumatic experiences or the frequency therein of, but everybody is affected by trauma
Yeah.
in one way or another. Uh, so as Demi was pointing out there, and you kind of touched on it there, you got to step outside of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I was not. I heard what I had to do. They kind of explained how trauma group works, and I was not digging it. Um,
Mhm.
it is a very uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, once you get going, it's just incredible. Now, uh, it's kind of just like stepping out of that comfort zone, and
To
and
regain that power is phenomenal. Like, you know, to have, like, where you feel like you're powerless and you feel like you've lost it, and then to regain that because you've achieved that, because you were brave enough to go and do that and go through that process and regain effectively your life. That's huge. That is huge. And like you say, this is why we want to talk about these things, to normalize talking about it. There's nothing to be ashamed of having mental health problems, because that's how you get over them, is to talk about it, to discuss it, and to help other people out there
Mhm.
that may be going through it,
So yeah,
and to know that they're not alone.
100%. And what else um, we can do? We'll touch on that again here in just a sec. I wanted to take a quick turn. Well, it's not really a turn. It's the next level of therapy, and the second part of the answer to Jim's question. There's an even more intense um, way of processing trauma. Some of you might know of it. I know TJ's talked about it in the past. Stealth USA on here on Twitch.
Mhm.
It's called
Mhm.
EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. EMDR.
Yeah.
So, what this is, and Gemma, you don't have to. I'm just going to touch
Okay,
on.
go for it.
This is a more intense uh, recount um, of the traumatic experience. The person that's certified to do this, the trauma clinician that can do this, not everyone can do it, um, is very skilled in this process. And what this means is And I encourage you, if you're interested, please. There's wonderful videos on YouTube about EMDR. Um, look it up. It's incredible. I did not personally take any EMDR, but one of my buddies did, and he had a lot of great things to say about it. So this
Mhm.
the way they did it down at the center, they have a light that goes back and forth on a screen. Okay, they say that you can have like buzzers in both hands, and one will just keep going off in each hand, back and forth. It'll buzz, 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 buzz. But they had a light on a bar, it goes back and forth, and you follow
Mm.
that with your eyes. And this might be a little bit of that hypnotherapy you were talking about. It's not
I
really,
have had that actually. I didn't know that's what it was called, but I actually have had the light.
but while you're watching this light go back and forth, it's reaching into other parts of your brain that aren't normally active when you're discussing this stuff. When you're normally talking about your traumatic event, you're not kicking in this region of the brain that simply following this light bar allows you to tap into. And the clinician that does the EMDR processing is able to dig out even more um, that's locked away in there. So please, just a quick touch on this, but feel free to look this up. It's incredible stuff. Like I said, some great YouTube videos out there. And again, I've even put a daily article on this one in the Discord as well because I find it amazing. But I don't know a lot of firsthand stuff about it. I would have to do some more research to go in depth further. Okay, so what can we do with our friends that are clearly um, in a traumatic time in their life? Um, these are all just three little things here that I wanted to add at the end here. Listen to what they need. Um, you know, don't discredit what they're saying, and listen without judgment. That's a big one there. Um, don't please don't tell them no. They're wrong.
Mhm.
If they're saying I'm a bag of shit, don't say no. You're not. Don't say no. You're wrong. Um, that's the
Yeah.
instinctual thing to do, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, you're being very dismissive to this person.
Mhm. Mhm.
They feel dismissed. I never thought about that before until it was presented to me, and it's actually very true. Don't pressure them to tell you more than they're comfortable with. Everybody has their own comfort levels, and as uh, the bond grows stronger, the comfort zones expand.
Yeah.
What else can we do, Gemma?
Mhm. Open that one up.
Taking care of physical needs.
Yeah.
And do you want to touch on any of these?
Yeah. So we've got like taking care of pets. One thing that many people that I've spoken to say that is very therapeutic is having a pet and just sometimes having that connection with them, stroking them, like petting them, things like that. So that says on there. Check so you can check on their safety. Let them stay with you. So, like a friend, if they need that, let them stay with you. Make them food to make sure they're eating, I guess. Help them find a new home. Send a care package. Give them a ride if they need.
All wonderful ways of
Yeah,
saying just be a friend. Um,
yeah, definitely. And it is true what you say about the dismissive thing because again, like as somebody, I feel like for the majority of my life, I've been dismissed by family and friends and things like that.
mhm.
So to to feel like you've built up enough strength to talk to somebody where you feel like you can trust them, and then you might say, "I feel like I'm a piece of shit. I'm crap. I'm this. I'm that," and then they'll be like, "Don't be silly. No, you're not." That's instantly getting it off on a dismissive wrong foot, and they'll be like, "Well, it took me so long to build up the courage to tell you that."
Hmm.
and then you like
But remember, yeah, also,
word it differently.
it is that instinctual thing to do. You think you're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
you mean no harm by it. No, you're not a
Mm.
piece of shit. You're not. Don't say that about yourself. Um,
Mhm.
that's what we would think anybody would want to hear, but really, it can be counterproductive. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Gemma, go ahead.
No, no, you're fine. I think the best way to deal with something like that is like to maybe try and encourage more out of them if they're comfortable. Say, well, why do you feel like that? Give them the chance to open up that little bit more. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And that might be because I know when I'm starting to talk to somebody, I tend to test the water with them with little things to see how they react to what I'm giving them. And then, depending on how they react with that information, I will then determine whether I feel like I can give them any more or whether I'm going to be like, no, that's enough. You're not getting any more. So, really listen to somebody if they're opening up to you. Be careful with your wording and give them that. Like, if they say that, say, well, why? Why do you feel like that? Like, and that gives them an opening to give you more if they want to, if they feel like they can.
Yes. Awesome.
Mhm.
Well, guys, that is a little bit about the traumatic brain. It went super quick tonight. Uh,
Did, yeah.
we will definitely touch on this again, at another episode, because it
Mhm.
is very important, and I hope I've made it um, a little bit easier to understand as I try and jot down some more notes for you all. We all know our good buddy in the chat right now, Jim in Chicagoland. He will be posting his weekly episodic candle uh, over on his channel here on Twitch, live tonight, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come in, join us. I'm there every Wednesday. Uh, it's good to sit by the candle, the virtual candle, with good friends, good people, good conversation, um, and chat out those midweek blues, if you will. Um, don't forget, the Creative Multiverse Archuary is coming to an end. Joseph Burke Arch should be on tonight for day 26 of Archuary, somewhere in the 10:30-ish range, Eastern Standard. And then our good friend Ella, www.mybunnyvalentine.com. Get yourself some bunnies, get yourself some electronics, get yourself some jewelry, some clothing, some awesome bunny things that help Ella help bunnies and
Yes.
bunny rescues everywhere. Uh, Gemma,
I never.
anything to close on that I'm
Yeah,
missing? Oh,
the
yeah, the
Discord.
socials.
We've got a poll in the Discord at the moment. So if you want to be involved in the show and pick one of the shows, head over to the Discord. I've posted it in there already. Let's see if I've still got. Yep, there we go. There's the link again in the chat. But if you go into the Discord real quick, I'm just going to open it up. And then if you go into the one that says polls, there is one at the moment where you can vote on one of the left and right. You can vote on one of the shows that we're doing. So at the moment we have relationships and mental health, physical health, well-being and mental health, body dysmorphia, and obsessive compulsive disorders to vote from. We are going to do some more like this because I think like we've said, it helps everybody to be involved in the show. And then we are already discussing doing another viewer Q&A, aren't we? We're just going to set a date for that.
Yes, I'm thinking we've got Sarah Lightman coming on the show mid
Yep.
mid February. We've also are in talks with Eric J Gaming here in the chat as well. We'll be having
Yep.
him on. So at some point, once we hammer out when we're going to have Eric on, we'll set
Mhm.
the date for the next live Q&A special.
Yeah.
which was very awesome last time. We had a lot of fun, and I look forward to this one again. Guys, thank you so much again for all the subs, all the bits, all the love, all the shares, all the resubs, all the hype trains, all the stretches, Sadie. We really appreciate it here, and it helps keep the show going. Everything, all money, all proceeds go right back into this show to make it bigger and better for you. This episode will be edited down and uploaded to YouTube tomorrow night after the 24-hour clause. And stick around for a raid. We got a fun one tonight. I enjoy this guy's streams. He's the original OG, the OG trick shooter here on Haps or Haps. Here on Twitch. Wow.
Where are we going?
I got to do the gym smack. But yes, here on Twitch. His name's That's Just Unreal. A lot of fun. And thanks again, Gemma. Great broadcast. Thank you for joining me again.
Oh, thank you.
Another episode in the books. And we'll see you guys. Let's see. We'll see you guys next week.
Mm-hmm.